class. Right, here we go. When my father was 4 or 5 years old, this is the
This is
previous.
tomorrow's.
Oh, the ninth. You're right. Good point. Good point. Well, I'm glad you're here. Here we go. A mitzvah. Okay. Now, these are sayings mostly by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe that were gathered together by his son-in-law. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe was the sixth Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he told his son-in-law, who is our Rebbe, gather all these together, and that's called HaYom. It's a message for every day. Here we go. A lesson for every day. Mitzvah. What's the word mitzvah mean? Mitzvah means commandment. It says mitzvah means attachment. Whoever does a mitzvah becomes attached to the essence of God. Blessed be He. Who God is the commander. He's the one that's telling us what to do. So we don't do the commandments because it's our heritage. Somebody over there, I'm sorry, but someone has to, let me see who this was. Who is this? This. 1 minute. It's good there's a lot of people, but someone has to mute themselves, except for me. Okay. So when you do a commandment, it's not just you're doing the heritage of the Jewish people, or you're doing a religious act, or you're doing a meaningless act which casts you into the absurd, the reality of philosophical Judaism or something. No, you're doing right now what the creator of the universe and creator of you is telling you to do right now. So when you do a command, the word commandment means connection. That's the meaning of the reward of a mitzvah is the mitzvah. Schar mitzvah mitzvah. The greatest reward you can have of doing the commandment is that you're connected to the creator of the universe. Not what you receive, but what you do. Being connected to the essence of Ein Sof. He's the commandment. That's the reward itself. The above can be understood through an analogy from the physical world. An extremely simple person has a sense of total negation before a great wise scholar. A bittul which he senses himself to be like a nobody. The sage in turn does not sense or perceive the simpleton as belonging to the category of human beings. Right, you can see this, let's say a big professor. I don't know really if this is, I don't know where you can see really an example of this in normal day-to-day life that you can relate it to somebody. The only one I can think of is a very mundane one, and that is there are rock and roll stars, right? There are rock and roll stars, and there's people that they're like, they see this rock and roll star on the road. That's him. He's over there, right? And he says, "Hello, is it really you, the Shlomo Grois, the great rock and roll star?" "Yeah, it's me." "Oh, this is him. I'm talking. Take a picture." Just the fact that you're near this person, right? Not us. I could care less. But you see that there's especially the girls. Oh, is here. They can almost faint, right? They don't even. They can't even stay conscious enough to get the guy's signature or something. Oh, why? Because this guy stands up on the stage and he's got 200 million people watching him. His every move, and they know all the song. This great person, and I'm a little nothing. I'm a little nobody. Okay, that's a pretty disgusting example that I gave, but it's the only sort of one that I can think, because the example the Rebbe gives is a true example. We're talking about a true Torah scholar, a sage, that he's a holy person, he's a great person, and his whole mind all the time he's walking, thinking ideas. This idea in the Torah, that idea, and this idea of God, that idea of God. When he meets up with a simple person, so the simple person is, oh, this is the Rav, this is the holy. So he considers him to be, right? So this great man, a simple person that he's thinking all the time about himself, is not part of his world. The sage doesn't perceive the simpleton as belonging to the category of human beings. A human being to him is somebody who thinks about Torah, who thinks about God. It's not that he dismisses him or rejects him. That would be a bad thing. That's a bad trait. He just doesn't see any connection with this person. Right? He's a It's a genius. It's like some simpleton coming up to talking to a big professor in medicine and saying, listen, I don't think you should make brain operations by cutting the person's head open. I think you should give him an injection in his toe. So what are you talking about? What do you, right? Doesn't know anything about anything. You don't know about. Okay, now when this great sage, or take my stupid example of the rock and roll star, when he instructs the simple person to do something from him, that commandment brings the simple person into existence. In his own self-perception, he's no longer a nobody, but he's a somebody, right? Albert Einstein told me to go and bring him a pen, right? One day, I'll never forget that day, right? Such a great man. All of a sudden, he becomes somebody. He has assumed the status into himself that he's able to carry out an order of the sage. And it's him that the sage addressed and instructed. Was somebody, suddenly this person becomes a reality, and also even more, he becomes a reality in his own eyes, and also he becomes a reality in the eyes of the sage, of the important person. Suddenly he becomes he's a person. What's the proof that I'm a person? This great sage, Albert Einstein, or this rock and roll star, or this great rabbi, he actually told me to do something, to bring a pen for him. Wow, I'll never forget that. So what do we see? This commandment that is given, this unites the high person with the simple person. The analogy is obvious. It's understood. So when God commands us to do something, so God is infinitely above us. He's the creator of the whole universe. There's nothing greater than when God commands us to do something, that first of all shows that we're important in God's eyes. And secondly, it makes us important in our own eyes, that we realize that we're important to God. There's no difference. That's the commandments. That's what happens when we do a commandment. Suddenly we become a greater reality. Our existence becomes more important. So it's understood that there's no difference whether the commandment is about, whether it's a great lofty matter or a simple trivial one, right? If our example, Albert Einstein says, bring me a pen, or he says, bring me a treatise on whatever it is, on nuclear physics, something like that. What is your opinion about the theory of relativity? Doesn't make any difference what it is. The fact that he relates to you makes you important. Okay, now story.